What if the most dangerous person in your life, right now, today, isn't an enemy? What if there's someone you trust completely? What if the person destroying you piece by piece is doing it with a smile, with love language, with a voice so soft you keep convincing yourself you must be misunderstanding? Here's what nobody wants to say out loud. Evil people don't look evil. They look like your best friend. They look like your partner. They look like the most understanding, caring, attentive person you've ever met. And by the time you realize what's been happening, you've already handed them everything: your confidence, your joy, your sense of who you are. I know this is uncomfortable. I know it might be hitting somewhere specific right now, but stay with me because what I'm about to share could be the most important thing you hear this year. There are 5 unmistakable signs, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. This video might change how you see everything. Stay until the end because the last sign, the one most people completely miss, that's the one that changes lives. What if the most dangerous person in your life isn't a stranger, but someone sitting right across from you at the dinner table? Evil rarely announces itself. It doesn't knock on your door wearing a mask. It walks in wearing a warm smile, bringing gifts, speaking softly, making you feel chosen, special, like you're the only person in the world who truly understands them. And that's exactly the trap. The first sign you're dealing with an evil person is their complete and utter lack of empathy. Not the visible kind, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, calculated kind that only reveals itself when you're bleeding. When you're hurting, when you're in crisis, when you come to them broken, they don't reach for your hand. They reach for information. They catalog your weakness. They file away your pain for later use. And here's what makes it so terrifying. They are exceptional performers. They can cry on command. They can say, "I'm so sorry," with perfect timing. They've studied what empathy looks like without ever actually feeling it. So while you're building trust, brick by brick, they're building a blueprint of everything that could one day destroy you. This is not dramatic. This is not rare. This is happening in homes, in offices, in friendships, right now, today, to someone you know. What if every time someone hurt you and then made you feel guilty for being hurt, that wasn't an accident? The second sign is something so deeply psychological, so masterfully executed that most people don't recognize it until years have passed and their self-worth is already in ruins. It's called consistent blame shifting, and evil people have perfected it into an art form. No matter what happens, no matter what they do, somehow, some way, it becomes your fault. You're too sensitive. You misunderstood. You provoked them. You always do this. And what's devastating is that when you hear this enough times from someone you love or trust, you start to believe it. You begin questioning your own memory. You apologize for things you didn't do. You shrink yourself to avoid setting them off. This is not a communication problem. This is not a personality clash. This is intentional erosion. Evil people understand that if they can make you doubt your own perception of reality, they own your narrative. They control the story. And a person who controls your story controls your life. The research on emotional abuse is staggering. Millions of people worldwide are living inside someone else's lie, convinced that everything wrong between them is their own doing. This is the second sign, and it should shake you to your core. What if the person who always knows exactly what to say to make you feel special is the same person using that knowledge to slowly take everything from you? The third sign is manipulation through charm. And this one is the most seductive, the most dangerous, and the most misunderstood. Evil people are not always cold. In fact, the most dangerous ones are extraordinarily warm in the beginning. They love bomb you. They mirror your values, your humor, your dreams. They make you feel seen in a way no one ever has. And your nervous system responds. It releases oxytocin. It builds attachment. It says, "This person is safe." But what's actually happening is a strategy. They are doing reconnaissance. Every conversation is data collection. Every vulnerable moment you share becomes leverage. Every dream you whisper in the dark becomes a weapon they can use when the time is right. because evil people understand one thing deeply, that human beings are wired for connection. And anyone who exploits that wiring is not charming. They are predatory. The shift from charm to control is gradual. It happens so slowly, you barely notice until one day you look up and realize you've completely restructured your life around their approval. Your joy is now dependent on their mood. Your identity has been replaced by their version of you. That is not love. That is capture. And recognizing it is the first act of reclaiming yourself. What if the person who claims to love you the most is the one most committed to making sure you never truly grow? The fourth sign is something that cuts right to the soul, and that is the deliberate sabotage of your growth, your dreams, and your autonomy. Evil people cannot exist alongside your strength. Your confidence threatens their control. Your success destabilizes their superiority. So they work subtly, consistently, relentlessly to keep you small. They mock your ambitions in the name of being realistic. They undermine your achievements with perfectly timed constructive criticism. They surround your wins with doubt. They make sure that every time you rise, something, and usually something they engineered, pulls you back down. And the cruelest part, they do it with love language. I just worry about you. I don't want to see you get hurt. I only say this because I care. That is not care. That is a cage with a ribbon on it. Because the people who truly love you, the ones who are genuinely good, they celebrate your becoming even when it threatens the dynamic. They want you bigger, brighter, freer. Evil people need you stuck. Because a version of you that no longer needs them is a version of you they can no longer control. And that terrifies them more than anything else in the world. What if the person who seems the most wounded in every argument is actually the one causing the most damage? The fifth sign is the weaponization of victimhood. And this one is so psychologically sophisticated that it confuses even trained professionals. Evil people are masterful victims. The moment accountability approaches, the moment truth starts to surface, they collapse, they cry, they bring up their trauma. They remind you of everything they've suffered, everything they've sacrificed, everything they've endured. And you, being a compassionate person, immediately feel guilty for even bringing it up. You drop the subject, you comfort them, you apologize. And they have successfully redirected the entire narrative again. This pattern is not a coincidence. It is a strategy born from years of understanding that compassion is a doorway, and that if they can trigger yours at the right moment, they will always escape accountability. The research is clear. Genuine vulnerability creates connection, but performed vulnerability, vulnerability used as a weapon, destroys it. The difference is this: a truly wounded person seeks healing. An evil person seeks leverage. When someone's pain always conveniently appears the moment you try to hold them responsible, that is not trauma. That is manipulation, wearing trauma's face. And learning to see that distinction, no matter how uncomfortable it feels, may be the most important thing you ever do for your own survival. What if the reason you feel completely exhausted after spending time with someone is because they are actually feeding off your energy? The sixth and perhaps most physically visceral sign is energy drain, the kind that is unexplainable, overwhelming, and deeply consistent. Every single time you interact with this person, you walk away feeling depleted, not just tired, hollowed, like something has been taken from you that you can't quite name. Your joy is dimmer, your motivation is lower, your sense of self feels blurry, and yet somehow they walk away looking refreshed. This is not a coincidence, and it is not your imagination. Evil people are fundamentally takers. They do not have an internal emotional ecosystem that sustains itself. They require constant external feeding, your attention, your validation, your reaction, your emotional output. Every argument they start is a withdrawal from your account. Every crisis they manufacture is a feast. And the longer you stay, the more overdrawn you become. Psychologists describe this as psychic vampirism. not in the supernatural sense, but in the deeply human sense of a person who cannot generate positive energy internally and therefore must extract it from those around them. Over time, prolonged exposure doesn't just exhaust you, it fundamentally alters you. Your baseline joy drops, your trust in others fractures, your ability to feel safe disappears. This is the most invisible form of evil, and it is leaving millions of people walking through life wondering why they feel so empty, never realizing it's because someone they trusted has been quietly emptying them for years. What if I told you that the most dangerous people in your world don't look dangerous at all? What if I told you that evil, real, soul-crushing evil, doesn't come wearing a warning label? It doesn't send you signals. It doesn't arrive with red flags flying high. It arrives with warmth. It arrives with understanding. It arrives looking exactly like everything you've ever needed. And then, slowly, deliberately, invisibly, it begins to dismantle you. I want to talk about something today that most people are too afraid to name out loud, because naming it feels dramatic. Naming it feels like you're the problem. Naming it means accepting that someone you loved, someone you trusted, someone you built your life around may not be who you thought they were. And that is terrifying. But here is what I've come to understand about courage. The bravest thing a human being can ever do is choose truth over comfort, even when that truth lives inside a relationship they've spent years protecting. So today we're going to name it. The first thing you need to understand about evil people, and I mean genuinely, systematically harmful people, is that they have learned to perform empathy without ever actually feeling it. They have studied human connection the way a con artist studies a vault. They know exactly what to say when you're crying. They know when to touch your hand. They know when to go quiet and let the silence do the work. But watch carefully. Watch what happens the moment you are in real pain. Watch what happens when you are genuinely broken and you come to them needing to be held. Do they sit with you in the darkness, or do they take notes? Because a person with no true empathy doesn't know how to tolerate your suffering without using it. Your pain becomes their power. Your vulnerability becomes their inventory. And the most heartbreaking part is that you won't even realize it's happening because they are so good at looking like they care. The second thing, and this one changes lives when people truly hear it, is the pattern of blame shifting. You know this pattern. You felt it. You bring up something that hurt you, something real, something you've been carrying, and before you can finish the sentence, somehow, inexplicably, it has become your fault. You were too emotional. You always twist things. You're impossible to talk to. And you walk away not only still hurting, but now apologizing. This is not a communication breakdown. This is psychological architecture. Evil people understand that if they can make you doubt your own reality, they no longer need to be accountable to it. Your confusion is their freedom. Your self-doubt is their security system. And if you have ever felt more lost about the truth after a conversation than you did going into it, please hear me. That is not a relationship problem. That is a you being deliberately confused problem, and it is not your fault. Third, the charm. Oh, the charm. Because evil people are not cold. Do not make that mistake. The most dangerous ones are extraordinarily magnetic. They see you, really see you, in a way that feels miraculous at first. They reflect your own best self back at you. They speak your language, share your values, laugh at exactly the right moments. And your whole nervous system says, safe. But what they are actually doing is mapping you. Every dream you share, every fear you confess, every wound you expose, they are filing it away. Because a person who truly knows your deepest vulnerabilities is a person who can, when the time comes, strike with devastating precision. Charm is not the same as goodness. Attention is not the same as love. And anyone who makes you feel seen only to later use that vision against you never truly saw you at all. They only saw what they could use. Fourth, And this one breaks my heart every single time, the quiet, consistent crushing of who you are becoming. Evil people cannot coexist with your growth. Your power is a threat to their control. So they will dress their sabotage in love. They will call it concern. They will wrap their criticism in your best interest. I just don't want you to fail. Are you sure you're ready for that? I'm only saying this because I love you. And because it sounds like love, because you want it to be love, you let it in. You let it slow you down. You let it make you smaller. Until one day you realize you've been shrinking for years and you don't even remember the last time you trusted your own judgment. That is not love protecting you. That is fear controlling you. And the difference between those two things is everything. Fifth, the victimhood. This is the most sophisticated weapon in the arsenal of an evil person, and it is almost impossible to defend against if you don't know it exists. The moment you try to hold them accountable, the moment truth approaches, they break, they fall apart, they bring up every wound, every sacrifice, every moment they've ever suffered. And you, because you are compassionate, because you are human, because you genuinely do not want to cause pain, you stop. You back down. You hold them instead of holding your truth. And they have won again. Real vulnerability draws people closer. Performed vulnerability is deployed strategically to create distance from accountability. A truly healing person uses their pain to build bridges. An evil person uses their pain as a shield to ensure they never, ever have to answer for what they've done. And sixth, this one you feel in your body before your mind can explain it. You walk away from them exhausted, not just tired, fundamentally depleted, like light has been drained from you, like something essential has been taken and you can't quite name what. That is not coincidence. That is consequence. Evil people do not have an internal world that sustains itself. They require yours. Every reaction you give, every emotion you express, every piece of yourself you offer in the name of connection, they consume it. And over time, the cumulative withdrawal leaves you running on empty, confused, joyless, disconnected from the version of yourself you used to be. If someone consistently leaves you feeling less certain, less joyful, less yourself, that information is sacred. Your body knows things your mind is still trying to protect you from knowing. Here is the truth that I want to leave in your chest, not just in your head. Recognizing evil in another person is not about becoming cynical. It is not about building walls. It is not about trusting no one. It is about learning deeply, courageously, honestly, to trust yourself again. Because the most devastating thing evil people do is not the specific harm they cause. It is the slow, systematic dismantling of your faith in your own perception. They make you doubt what you saw, what you felt, what you know. And when a person can no longer trust their own eyes, they are completely at the mercy of whoever is willing to tell them what to believe. So the act of naming these signs, of saying out loud, I see this, I recognize this, I will not pretend this isn't happening. That is not drama. That is not weakness. That is one of the most profoundly brave things a human being can do. You are not too sensitive. You are not overreacting. You are not crazy. You are awake. And being awake, being honest about what and who you are surrounded by, is the beginning of every meaningful form of freedom there is. Choose that freedom. You have always deserved it.